Well, good morning. Welcome to American Reversion. I'm Steve Smith, and how are you all today? I hope you're well. I want to talk about an article that I just read that kind of leads into something that I've been thinking about before, and that is fraud. This is about scientific fraud. We can extrapolate that to, well, it's kind of the same thing, medical fraud, government fraud. We live in a fraudulent world. We live under a fraudulent system, and we live under a system in which fraud has um, has formed and developed and strengthened the general attitude and perception of society to the point to where it's almost impossible to escape it. And when you start thinking outside that fraudulent box, you are attacked, right? Before we get into that, remember that this and all of my videos are brought to you by my books, the Stonemont series, The Reversion, the Revival, the Renewal, and Appeal to Heaven, The Blessings of Freedom, and Hostages to Fortune, the complete set, the complete plan of how to prepare for, how to survive, and how to rebuild after a collapse of everything. And they are available both on Amazon or through our website, stonemont.us, and the links are right down there below. I know they're down there below on YouTube now that we're putting everything over on Rumble as well. I'll have to figure out how to put it on Rumble. I haven't gotten around to that yet, but you just go to stonemont.us and you'll see the website, and you can order the books right through there, or you can get them from Amazon if you would like. You get them faster through Amazon, but you get them autographed if you get them from me. Okay, fraud. I just read an article today, and it's no surprise to most of us that up to a third, and I'm not going to read it here, I have it archived, but they did a study out of something like 5,000 papers, scientific papers, and they found that about 1,500 of them, so not quite a third, that they determined to be fraudulent. Now, the interesting thing was, and I'll tell you a story about why I believe this, because I discovered this. I was involved in a situation many, many years ago that kind of reflects this. I'll tell the story now. When I left law enforcement, one of my interests, I was pretty much disgusted with everything that I had dealt with, had come to discover about our government and the enforcement and everything like that. And I was glad to get out because I no longer believed in the system, no longer wanted to support the system with my presence or my efforts. And I thought that I'd go back to school. But there had been a great problem, and I had spent a long time undercover narcotics and undercover other things. And while in the police community itself, alcoholism, divorce, and suicide were very high across the board. I mean, relative to other professions. And I don't know if it's the same today or not. I have no idea. It was back then. But it was particularly high. All three of those things were particularly high among those who had served any amount of time undercover. And I had an interest in trying to see, so I thought instead of pursuing and going farther with my criminal justice degree, I thought I'd switch over to psychology, which had always kind of interested me, and see if, because my interest was trying to find ways to identify the markers of when that occurs, and then to try to develop interventional techniques in order to help those people who are going through this and save their marriages, their lives, their health, all of this kind of stuff. So I started taking the psychology route in a major university, and it just so happened that one of my professors, who was head of the psychology department, we got to talking one time. Matter of fact, we got to talking down in the commons while I was down there having a cup of coffee. He saw me, he came over, he sat down, we started having coffee together, and I told him kind of what my interest was, and he says, well, if you'd like to study that, and if you would like to develop that toward a thesis, and a paper, then he would be more than happy to be my sponsor. He'd work with me on it and everything like that. And I said, wow, what a deal that would be. So let's go for it, because I really thought that there was a possibility that I could have some positive impact on what was going on. So I started digging into things, and I came up, and he kind of directed me. And there was something called role theory and role stress. And what that is the stress, and you can call it PTSD, you can call it all sorts of things. And PTSD is a major part of it. Um, but it had role theory, role stress has to do when you are living a life that is diametrically opposed to your core beliefs. And when you're deep enough undercover, that's exactly what you're doing. And so I was really interested in this, and I pursued it. But and I found that there was quite a bit of material out there already in the journals on it, and so I started going to these and going to different ones, and at first it was kind of interesting, and I thought that, well, I was seeing some unique takes on the subject. But the more I looked at it, and I looked at it from an investigator's eye, through an investigator's eye, I came to the conclusion that I had great doubts about whether these studies that I was reading were legitimate. And so it took me a while, because I kind of fought against it, and I didn't understand academia. I didn't realize how political it is. I didn't realize how fraudulent it is. I didn't realize how crooked it is. And it is. So it took me a while to really, determine to go to my my sponsor on this, the head of the psych department, and tell him what I thought I had found, and that was that I thought a lot of these studies had been faked. And so I went in thinking that, oh man, he's not going to believe me, or I have a bombshell. This is going to shake the foundations of psychology, right? And so I went in and I said, I forget exactly how I put it, but I said, I've come to think that a lot of these studies that I'm reading just aren't legitimate. He says, well, what are you saying? Are you saying that you think that they've been faked? And so he put the question right to me, and I says, yes, I do. He says, well, probably. Now, I was expecting him to go, oh my gosh, we've discovered something, You have to realize, I had done a number of years in law enforcement dealing with abnormal people. I thought that when I came back out into a normal world, that people out here weren't nearly as fraudulent. Well, much to my surprise, I'd say people out here are sometimes more fraudulent, Uh, and he says, yeah, probably. And so, I was surprised. He says it happens all the time. He says people need to come up with their master's thesis, their doctoral thesis, all this. And, half the time they drink most of the semester or the year or however long they have to put it together, and go out and party. And then, the week before they have to turn in their paper, they get down and they get some, they get a few things to draw from, and then they just make shit up. And he says, and nobody really calls them on it, because it's all part of the same club. See, the the review boards that are reviewing these papers are people who many times themselves faked it, and nor do they want to put the boot of disapproval on maybe some of their favorite students. And so these people, they become, they get their masters, and then they go on and they get their doctorate, and then they end up teaching and writing books based on these fraudulent papers. The lesson here is that, what have we seen? What have we seen over the last few years to where we found out that what we were being told wasn't true? I covered the mic. I had a couple of people complain about, your gulping is just atrocious. I gulp loud, but I drink coffee, and sometimes I just need to wet my whistle. And so I usually wear my mic up here on my shirt, and then you all get to hear that great explosion of my, And so I put it down on the desk. We'll see if that helps. And I covered my hand with it to be polite. I don't know. We'll find out. So we found out to be fraudulent, and the system, and it's not that the system itself discovers it's fraud. It knows it's fraud. It promotes its fraud. And then some very brave people start to rise up and point out, hey, what you're being told isn't true. And then they get destroyed, right? Well, we live in a fraudulent world. And the best we can do is to speak the truth ourselves and to encourage other people to speak the truth and to do so in a way that is reasonable and that normal people will receive it. As a matter of fact, I wrote something down in my Stonemont notebook that I wasn't thinking about doing this at all, but this brings it back to something that I actually wrote down that Tucker Carlson said just recently. And I think that what he says here says it beautifully. He said, when honest people say what's true, calmly and without embarrassment, they become powerful. At the same time, the liars who have been trying to silence them shrink. They become weaker. It's the iron law of the universe. True things prevail. Written down in my Stonemont notebook. I think he's exactly right. Now, many people will say, well, the truth, never comes out. I think that eventually it does. But whether it does or not isn't the point. We are called on to speak truthfully, to bring out the truth, to try to spread that truth around to others, not to knuckle under, to be accepted by the world, to be accepted by a broader audience, whatever. And for most people, it's not YouTube or it's not Rumble, or it's not Patreon. It's their friends, it's their family, it's the world, it's the people they work with. And our fight for a reversion of America our battle is a battle of truth versus fraud, truth versus falsehood, good versus evil, to be honest, because truth is good and lies are evil. It's just as simple as that. And so we're called on to do that. And to do so regularly, as Tucker says, without embarrassment, without fear. The Bible tells us you are not given a spirit of fear, but of strength. To do it with strength, to do it with certainty, and to do it wherever and however and whenever we can. And our country has a lot of challenges ahead of it. We've had a lot of challenges behind us. One could argue whether things have become better or worse over the years, and really it's ebbs and flows as always. It's better and worse and better and worse and better and worse. But our calling has to be to tell the truth as we know it, as we believe it, as we have found it to be so, regularly, with strength and convincingly, and representing that to others. So that's our call on this. That's what I wanted to share today. As I always say, America needs a reversion. It needs you to be a part of it. It needs me to be a part of it. And our part of it is carrying that truth out there to as many people as we can. And because that's the other side has carried their lies to as many people as they can. And we know that people are swayed. They are convinced by what they hear. The more they hear something and the louder they hear it, the more they will believe it. They've been hearing the other side loud and a lot. They need to hear more from us. They need to hear from us all the time, everywhere, and in every way. So that's my message today. Let me know what you think. Let me know, what you've done. Let me know what you intend to do, and give ideas to other people watching this. What your suggestions on how it can be done, because we can all learn, and sometimes people are willing, but they just need an idea how to do it. Maybe you can give it to them. So that's it for today. As I say, America needs a reversion and needs all of us to be a part of it. So get out there and do something today so that we have a better tomorrow, and I will talk to you tomorrow. Bye-bye.